It's funny how one bad decision can lead to the most satisfying revenge story of your life. That's exactly what happened to me about 6 years ago, and I still smile whenever I think about it. Let me set the stage. I'd moved from Chicago to Baltimore for a government job right after college. I was lucky enough to find two awesome guys to room with, and we shared a place for about 5 years. We became best friends during that time, doing everything together: barbecues on weekends, camping trips, the whole 9 yards. Eventually, one of my roommates, my closest friend, left our workplace to become a Secret Service agent, which is important for later. As my friends started moving out one by one, getting married and buying their own places, I thought I'd make a smart financial decision. I bought a house in 2007, literally months before the housing market crashed. Talk about terrible timing. Suddenly, I owed way more on my mortgage than my house was worth, and I was struggling to make ends meet. I had a couple co-workers move in to help with the bills, but they only stayed about a year before abruptly moving out with barely any notice. I was desperate to find someone, anyone, to help cover the mortgage, or I was going to lose everything. That's when I met my soon-to-be nemesis. I'll call him the fake vet since names aren't allowed. After posting on every rental site I could find, fake vet's application stood out. He claimed to be a military veteran who had served multiple tours overseas and was now working as a sous chef at a local restaurant. During our initial meeting, he seemed friendly, respectful, and most importantly, financially stable. I was so desperate that I skipped some of the background checks I should have done. Big mistake. The red flags started appearing immediately after he moved in. He arrived with just two small boxes and a TV. No bed, no furniture, nothing else. When I asked him where the rest of his stuff was, he made up an excuse about it still being in storage. He claimed he would get it that weekend, when his buddy could help with his truck. That weekend came and went. No stuff. Then I started chatting with him about his military experience, since my dad had served. I asked him which Ranger battalion he had been with. His answer was vague and suspicious. He just said the main one and called it the 1st Deployment Unit. When I pressed him to specify whether it was the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd Battalion, he gave the ridiculous answer that he had been with all of them at different times because they moved around so much. Anyone who knows anything about the military knows that's not how it works. But the final straw came when the 1st of the month rolled around. I reminded him that rent was due the next day. That's when the excuses started. He claimed his direct deposit was delayed because the restaurant had messed up his hours and asked if he could pay me the following week. When I told him I needed the rent on time to pay my mortgage, he tried to guilt-trip me. He had the nerve to say I should wait a few days because he had put his life on the line for this country. By this point, I knew something was seriously wrong. I told him he needed to move out by the end of the week. Surprisingly, he agreed without much argument and was gone the next day. I felt relieved until I tried to buy new locks at Home Depot and my card was declined. When I checked my bank account, I nearly had a heart attack. It was completely empty. Every cent I had gone. As I frantically called the bank, I discovered that fake vet had stolen my checkbook and written several checks to different people. I was devastated. The mortgage was due in 3 days and I had nothing. In my panic, I called my Secret Service friend to vent. I poured out my story to my friend, telling him how stupid I felt and explaining that the fake vet had completely cleaned out my account. My friend told me to slow down and asked for every detail I could remember about the guy. I gave him everything I could think of: physical description, where he worked, the fake military stories. My friend was furious and promised to help, asking me to give him 48 hours. I didn't think much would come of it, but I underestimated my friend. He told his co-workers, and even though this was small potatoes compared to their usual cases, they took it personally. Within days, they had tracked down and questioned the people who had cashed the fraudulent checks. One of them cracked and revealed that fake vet would be at a bar called Harbor Nights that evening, bragging about going on a deployment the next day. My Secret Service friend and 4 of his colleagues changed into civilian clothes and went to the bar. My other former roommate went along to watch. According to what they told me later, Fake vet was buying drinks for everyone, announcing loudly that he was shipping out to serve our country and wanted to celebrate. He was standing at the bar, my credit card in hand, when my friend stood up. My Secret Service friend shouted that he was United States Secret Service and that fake vet was under arrest. 3 agents tackled fake vet to the ground while he screamed in confusion. They cuffed him and dragged him outside where 2 black government SUVs were waiting. My former roommate said the entire bar went silent for a full minute afterward. When they interrogated him, fake vet broke down crying. My Secret Service friend made him add to his written confession that he had never served in the military and falsely claimed to be an Army Ranger. Fake vet couldn't understand why the Secret Service was arresting him for check fraud. My friend simply told him it was because he had robbed the wrong guy's roommate. The bank returned all my money within days under their fraud protection policy. Fake vet took a plea deal and spent 6 months in jail. I attended his sentencing hearing with my Secret Service friend, and the look on his face when he saw us sitting there was insane. The next roommate I accepted passed every verification with flying colors, and eventually became my wife. We've been happily married for 5 years now. Sometimes I wonder if I should thank fake vet for inadvertently leading me to meet the love of my life. But then I remember how close I came to losing my house, and I'm just glad he got exactly what he deserved. I never expected to spend my late teens hooked up to machines, but here I am. My life took a dramatic turn right before my 18th birthday when my kidneys failed. That's when dialysis became my new normal. Being in a wheelchair already made life challenging, but adding kidney failure to the mix, that was a whole new level of difficulty. Since I can't have a fistula due to my condition, I have what's called a permacath, a tube that goes into a large vein near my heart. The problem is, mine gets blocked every 3 to 4 months. When that happens, it's a whole ordeal to fix it. Last month, my permacath blocked again. My doctor suggested an anticoagulant injection to dissolve the blockage. It's not a simple procedure. The medication had to be pushed through very slowly by a machine, taking about 14 or 15 hours. The scary part is that anticoagulants can cause internal bleeding or other dangerous complications, so I had to be monitored in the ICU. My mom is basically my lifeline. Since I'm in a wheelchair, she handles everything for me, moving me, helping me eat, use the bathroom, everything. My doctor understood this and specifically gave permission for my parents to be in the ICU with me, even though ICU rules typically don't allow visitors. When I got to the ICU, I was placed next to an elderly man who had tubes everywhere. He was awake but couldn't speak. I noticed right away that one nurse seemed particularly irritated whenever my mom came in to help me. Let's call her the entitled nurse. Every time my mom would come to check on me or help me adjust my position, I have back problems and can't lie flat for long, the entitled nurse would glare at her. You could feel the hostility radiating off her. After the anticoagulant injection was complete, the ICU doctor and the entitled nurse came to check if the blood was flowing properly through my permacath. I was pretty out of it from all the other medications they had given me. The flow was good, but then the entitled nurse did something inexcusable. She left my permacath open while she walked away with the doctor. In my medication-induced haze, I sat up to drink some water. That's when disaster struck. Blood started pouring out of my open permacath. I don't know exactly how much blood I lost, but I quickly became dizzy. My oxygen levels dropped, and I passed out. The elderly man next to me couldn't speak, but he started banging his hand on his bed frame to get someone's attention. The entitled nurse came running in, saw what was happening, and frantically started closing my permacath. But it was too late. My bed, my clothes, everything was soaked in blood. My mom walked in at that exact moment and was horrified. She immediately asked what had happened to me. The entitled nurse simply stated that I had started bleeding. When my mom pressed for more details, clearly upset, the nurse shifted the blame onto me. She claimed that my mom should have taught me not to sit up whenever I wanted to. My mom was shocked by this response and tried to explain that I have back problems that prevent me from lying straight, and that I was also delusional from the medications. Instead of acknowledging her mistake, the entitled nurse ordered my mom to leave, insisting she wasn't allowed in the ICU. When my mom mentioned she had the doctor's permission, the nurse coldly stated that she didn't have the nurse's permission and demanded that my mom get out immediately, raising her voice. My mom, not wanting to cause more problems, reluctantly left. As soon as she was gone, the entitled nurse started frantically cleaning everything before the doctor could see what had happened. She practically yanked me out of my blood-soaked bed to change the sheets, not caring that I was barely conscious. When I finally came to, my parents explained what had happened. I was furious. This nurse had not only made a potentially life-threatening mistake by leaving my permacath open, but she had also tried to blame me for it and kicked my mom out when I needed help. The day after I was discharged, the first thing I did was file a formal complaint on the hospital's website detailing exactly what had happened. To my surprise, the hospital took it seriously. The entitled nurse was called in for a meeting with administration and was fired. It turned out I wasn't the first patient to complain about her. Many others had suffered because of her carelessness, but she always managed to clean up the evidence before doctors could see, and the other ICU doctors tended to take her side. My complaint was the final straw that broke the camel's back. The hospital reviewed security footage from the ICU, which confirmed my story and revealed her pattern of negligence with other patients. I later received a call from the hospital administrator apologizing for my experience and informing me that they were implementing new protocols to ensure patient safety and proper oversight of all ICU staff. I've been working as a concierge at an upscale apartment complex for about 5 years now. It's mostly a quiet job, helping residents with deliveries, greeting visitors, and managing the occasional maintenance request. One thing that's always been crystal clear in our building's policy is the deeded parking situation. When someone buys a unit here, they also purchase specific parking spots in our garage. It's their property, just like their apartment. For the most part, residents respect each other's spaces. But then there was this one couple who moved in as renters about 6 months ago. From day one, they seemed to think the rules didn't apply to them. There's this wonderful elderly resident, I'll just call her Granny, who's been living here for over a decade. She owns a cute Mini Cooper that she drives to her weekly bridge club meetings and to visit her grandchildren. Granny owns Unit 304 and parking spot B42. The trouble started when the renter couple began regularly parking their economy car in Granny's spot. At first, Granny would come to my desk, confused. She would politely ask me if I knew who had parked in her space again. I knew exactly who it was, the couple in 512. I called them down to the lobby. When they arrived, I told them that they had parked in a privately owned spot belonging to another resident. The husband dismissively replied that there were around 20 empty spaces in the garage, suggesting Granny could park somewhere else. His wife added that since they were paying good money to live in the building, they deserved parking too. I tried explaining that I understood their frustration, but that wasn't how the system worked. Each parking spot was deeded property belonging to specific unit owners, and they needed to move their car immediately. They rolled their eyes and moved their car, but the next day, they were back in Granny's spot. This went on for weeks. Granny would complain, I'd call them down, they'd make excuses, move their car, and then do it again the next day. Granny said the couple had told her to just park somewhere else since there were plenty of empty spots. She couldn't believe their nerve. I apologized for the continued problems and promised to speak with them again. But nothing changed. Granny became increasingly frustrated, and I was running out of options since I couldn't tow a car from a private spot without the owner's permission. Then one Tuesday morning, everything changed. Granny had clearly reached her limit. I was at my desk when the renter couple stormed into the lobby, looking furious. The husband demanded that I get a tow truck right away, claiming someone had blocked their car in. His wife complained that they would be late for work and found the situation unacceptable. I checked the security cameras and had to suppress a smile. Granny had parked her Mini Cooper bumper to bumper with their economy car, effectively trapping it in her own spot. She'd also left a note on their windshield. I explained to them that it was actually Granny's deeded parking spot that their car was in, and she was simply parking in her own property. The husband protested, claiming she couldn't legally block them in. I told them that actually they had parked on her private property without permission, and I couldn't tow her car from her own spot any more than I could rearrange furniture in her apartment without her permission. The couple argued with me for nearly 20 minutes, demanding I do something. Finally, I called Granny's unit, even though it was only 7:30 in the morning. About 5 minutes later, Granny appeared in the lobby wearing her house coat and slippers, with her little Yorkshire Terrier tucked under her arm. Granny greeted me warmly and referred to the couple as the people who kept borrowing her parking spot. The wife apologized but explained they needed to get to work, pleading with Granny to move her car. Granny said she could certainly move her car for a fee of $150. The husband was outraged and refused to pay anything. Granny asked if they had read her note explaining that parking in her spot cost $150 per day, and they could leave a check with me, the concierge. The couple looked at me, but I just shrugged. The wife complained that the situation was ridiculous and emphasized their need to leave immediately. Granny told them there would be an additional $50 charge for waking her up so early for their emergency, explaining that her morning routine was very important at her age. The husband reluctantly agreed and asked when she planned to leave so they could retrieve their car. Granny smiled sweetly while scratching her dog's ears and explained that, being retired, she had nowhere to be that day. She would leave her spot when she was ready. She reiterated the price was now $150 for the day, plus $50 for waking her in cash. They should leave the envelope with me and she would move her car after receiving their rental fee. With that, she left to walk her dog. With that, Granny strolled out the front door with her dog, leaving the couple sputtering in the lobby. After another 10 minutes of complaining, they finally realized I couldn't help them. They reluctantly went to the ATM across the street and came back with $200 cash in an envelope. When Granny returned from her dog walk, which seemed longer than usual that day, she counted the money carefully, nodded with satisfaction, and went to move her car. Word of Granny's parking enforcement spread quickly throughout the building. The couple never parked in anyone's assigned spot again, and for almost 2 years afterward, we didn't have a single issue with parking violations. 3 years ago, I landed my dream job at a tech consulting firm. It wasn't just the work that made it special, it was my team. We were 5 people who clicked perfectly, each bringing different skills to the table. For the first time in my career, I actually looked forward to Mondays. The problems we solved together were challenging but exciting, like puzzles that kept my brain engaged. The only dark cloud in this otherwise perfect job was a senior VP. I'll call him the Creep. The Creep had been with the company for over a decade and was best buddies with all the executives. This gave him a sense of untouchability that he exploited to the fullest. During my first week, a colleague pulled me aside in the break room. She warned me that all women in the office avoided being alone with the Creep because he said inappropriate things and sometimes got handsy. She added that nothing had gone beyond that point, but I should still be careful. I thanked her for the warning and told her I would keep my distance. And for 2 years, that's exactly what I did. I'd occasionally get uncomfortable comments from him in passing, but I managed to limit our interactions. This wasn't ideal, but I loved my job too much to rock the boat. Then one Thursday evening at our team's weekly happy hour, my co-worker, I'll call him the gentle genius because he truly was brilliant but shy, let something slip that made my blood boil. He mentioned quietly that he didn't know how much longer he could handle the Creep's behavior. We all stopped mid-conversation. I asked him what he meant, surprised that the Creep was bothering him too. The gentle genius had some neurological differences that caused minor tics and a unique speaking pattern. He was also prone to anxiety in social situations. As he explained what had been happening, my anger grew with each word. The gentle genius explained that the Creep had been seeking him out almost daily. He described how the Creep would mimic his speech, make fun of his tics, and even called him the R word the previous week. He shared that the Creep kept questioning how someone like him could possibly be qualified for this job. Our teammate pointed out that this behavior was illegal because the gentle genius was protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act. She suggested he should report the creep to Human Resources. The gentle genius reacted with immediate panic, practically jumping out of his seat. He begged us not to tell anyone about what he had shared. He explained that he couldn't risk losing his job because he had just bought a house and he and his girlfriend were planning to get married the following year. We promised to keep quiet, but I left that bar with a fire in my belly. The creep had been terrorizing women for years, and now he was bullying my friend because of his neurological differences. No, this ended now. I couldn't break my promise to the gentle genius by reporting what I knew, so I decided to build my own case. Instead of avoiding the creep, I started making myself available. I sent him professional questions through our company messaging system, asking if Client X would be renewing their contract for the next quarter. The floodgates opened immediately. His responses were wildly inappropriate, filled with innuendo and suggestions that made my skin crawl. I'd respond with intentionally literal interpretations of his comments. When he suggested showing me his special presentation technique in private with a winky face, I replied by asking if there was a new presentation software the company was adopting since our team used standard PowerPoint templates. Sometimes I would directly tell him that his comments made me uncomfortable and ask him to keep our conversations professional. But he never stopped. He just bulldozed right over my objections with even more inappropriate remarks. For 6 weeks, I documented everything. After each in-person encounter, I'd return to my desk and write down exactly what he said, when he said it, and who might have witnessed it. I saved all our message exchanges. When I finally had enough evidence, I walked into Human Resources with my folder. I told a representative that I wanted to file a sexual harassment complaint. The Human Resources representative immediately called in the department head and 2 other representatives. They reviewed my evidence carefully, asking detailed questions about each incident. They also asked if I knew of others who'd had similar experiences with the creep. I gave them several names. The head of Human Resources assured me that they took these allegations very seriously and thanked me for bringing this to their attention. 2 weeks later, I received the news. The creep had been terminated. The office practically threw a party. Over the next few months, I learned the full story. After my complaint, Human Resources had contacted everyone I'd named. Word spread that an investigation was underway, which gave courage to 15 other women to come forward with their own stories. The Information Technology Department had also been asked to review the creep's communication history, which revealed even more inappropriate behavior. The creep did receive a generous severance package, which felt unfair considering his actions. But justice came in another form. His reputation was destroyed. No company in our industry would hire him. Last I checked his social media, he was calling himself an independent consultant and trying to sell people on multi-level marketing schemes. The gentle genius never knew what I did, but he flourished once the creep was gone. His anxiety improved and his confidence grew. I attended his wedding last month, where he looked happier than I'd ever seen him.